What is inclusion and diversity? Defining inclusion and diversity started decades ago in France. It was December 1948 when the United Nations sat together and declared that every person has the right to an education. 41 years later, the UN Rights of the Child stated that children, regardless of their origin, religion, sex, disability, or colour, are born with the right to live without discrimination. The definition evolved again in 1994 when the Salamanca Statement published that regular schools were to make accommodation to fit the needs of children with diverse capabilities. It was influenced along the way with movements such as the Melbourne Declaration on Education Goals for Young Adults, the Standard of Education, and the Disability Discrimination Act, all held together with the common thread that all children have the right to be treated with dignity and equity. It continues to grow today in classrooms using child-centered pedagogies to acknowledge the individuality of each student and to embrace that every child has unique characteristics, interests, abilities, and learning needs. By understanding that each child is individual and implementing an inclusive learning environment, we remove the stigma of different abilities and just have students. Students who are working together to move towards unique goals set within their own learning journey. No individual is considered more capable than another, just capable. A modern view on diversity is seen as celebrating individuals' differences, while inclusion is establishing an environment where everyone feels safe, capable, and respected. As the world continues to embrace diversity, our understanding of inclusion will be challenged and continue to evolve to meet the ever-changing benchmark of the inclusive classroom. Universal design for learning. Universal design for learning is creating a curriculum that is accessible and relevant for all students. By designing a curriculum that can provide options and curricula delivered through flexible teaching methods, the students are able to access learning opportunities that are immediate to their current needs. UDL is understanding that each child's learning journey is different and designing curriculum to support the distinctiveness rather than teaching down the middle. This prepared way of designing curriculum reduces the need of adaptation later down the track. UDL has three main principles: representation, expression, and engagement, also referred to as the how, what, and when of learning. To develop a curriculum that is truly diverse in the classroom, we need to consider these three principles. Representation. Consider how the content is being delivered and other multimodal aspects we can utilize. Animation, graphics, and visual cues are engaging to diverse types of learners, including hearing impaired, English as a second dialect, and visual learners. Engagement. Provide options for the students to express themselves through different means. Various options deliver the ability for students to master a skill or attempt something new. Expression. Offer students different options to keep them engaged in topics. By considering various interests and offering a variety of skill levels, students are able to be challenged and engaged in subjects that interest them. It encourages them to explore options and make mistakes in a supported learning environment. The universal design for learning is built around accessibility for all students. However, to understand the versatility, we will consider three different types of students and how each principle is specific to the individuals. The gifted and talented student and the engagement principle. It is important when discussing gifted and talented students to remember that not all students fall under this label in all areas of the curriculum. Many students may excel in one or multiple areas. They can also be from different backgrounds and socio-economic levels or have a disability. There is no cookie-cutter student that fits the gifted and talented description, which is why frameworks like the Universal Design for Learning are so important in the classroom. The UDL is designed for all students to get the most out of their abilities. Gifted and talented students need the ability to be challenged to reach their full potential. Students need to consider the need to challenge can get bored easily, hard to spot, and come in many different forms. Teaching Strategy 1. The rubric. Using rubric in the classroom as a teaching strategy has multiple uses. Set out in a matrix or table, it can be used as a grading, scoring, or tracking tool depending on the desired outcome. The rubric can provide step-by-step instructions on completing the task. The clear and structured learning allows all students to identify a goal that is challenging but achievable depending on their own learning journey. For gifted and talented students, using a rubric when working on an assignment can provide the opportunity to challenge themselves. For example, if we had a good, better, best rubric on designing a boat, it might look like this. Good, the boat floats. Better, the boat floats with marbles inside. Best, the boat floats with marbles inside and can move from one side of the tub to the other without being touched. A young student that was gifted in design or science would need to independently research how the boat can be moved without being touched. It would take trial and error as well as persistence and creative thinking to successfully complete the task and obtain a best mark. Teaching Strategy 2. Modified Assignments. Modified assignments encourage each student to work within their own individual strengths, allowing different pathways to complete the same task. For example, the teacher may ask the class to summarize the terms learning on rainforests and offer different avenues to do this. A report, a board game, a poster, a diorama, and so on. All the students will reach the same learning objective, but the path they choose to take to obtain its individual is on their own likes and learning abilities. Open mediums give gifted and talented students the opportunity to excel in their area. Even if the topic is not specific to their interest, they may be able to use it to make a video game or graph out the last 20 years of rainfall in the Amazon. Principle 2. Expression. Teaching strategies to support students with a refugee experience. Coming to a new country and learning a new language can be a challenging experience. The Australian curriculum requires all students to access learning and demonstrate their achievements through English. Students whom English is an additional language or dialect may require additional support with the curriculum. Although these students enrich the classrooms with a diverse cultural experience, they may find it difficult to relate to specific examples depending on the cultural context. What one student born in Australia may consider everyday, the experience for someone else can be very foreign. Students need to consider ways of communication, visual aids, clear or written instructions, social interactions including relationship building, and cultural differences. Teaching Strategy 3. Explicit Instructions. Explicit instructions is the teaching of a topic through specific steps. The teaching first outlines the learning environment, linking it to prior learning, and then provides step-by-step instructions to complete the task. This structured and detailed way of learning allows students to work alone or in groups at their own pace to complete the task with a clear understanding of what needs to be done. For students with a refugee experience or have English as a second dialect, these step-by-step instructions allows them to break the task down into similar stages that are easier to understand. It gives these students the ability to work at their own pace and ask peers or the teacher if a word or step they do not understand and need further instructions. Teaching Strategy 4. Problem-solving checklist. A problem-solving checklist is a physical checklist students can use to solve a problem. These general checklists can be applied to mathematics, literacy, science, and even social situations. It allows the user to take a step back from a scenario and go through it in a structured and methodical way. Having a physical checklist to run through for students with a refugee experience gives them the opportunity to process through a situation they may not understand. At their own pace, they can move through each stage in a supportive environment. This process is encouraging self-help skills and independent problem solving with teacher support. Representation. Teaching strategies to support students with a hearing impairment. According to the Disability Discrimination Act 1992 and the Disability Standards for Education 2005, any student with a disability, including a hearing impairment, has the right to the same access of education as any other student. With any student with a disability, it is important not to assume there will be any need to have any adaptation made to the curriculum. Universal Design for Learning gives the students options on how to complete a task rather than adjustments. Being aware of the individual's needs over the impairment's limitations establishes a supportive and inclusive environment. Students need to consider ways of communication, visual aids, classroom positioning, clear or written instructions, and work with additional parties such as a speech therapist. Teaching Strategy 5. Visual cueing. Visual cueing is a non-formal way of communication to students using body movement, symbols, signs, and hand gestures. Working on a behaviourist model, visual cues are explained clearly to a class and then used regularly when an outcome is desired. If the teacher wants to gain the class's attention, they may place their hands on their heads or motion to a symbol on the wall. This non-verbal communication is beneficial for students with a hearing impairment as it is a universal way of communicating without speaking. The use of visual cues provides structure and routine for the whole class while being inclusive. Teaching Strategy 6. Word Wall. Word walls are a structured display of words used in the classroom. They serve a specific purpose and are added to throughout the year. By having words visually available all the time, it increases students' vocabulary, reading, and writing skills. Students with a hearing impairment can use the word wall to draw back on information they have missed throughout the lesson or as a visual aid for questions. Students working with a speech therapist can add to the wall as they learn unfamiliar words, encouraging other students to also build their vocabulary.